Hello and welcome to the Kayo Sports NRL Podcast. I'm Braith and Anasta. Joining me this week is Michael Carayannis. Mick, how are you, bud?
I'm well, Braith. I'm well. About to get back into the madness of it all.
Been on a holiday here.
Cook Islands.
Cook Islands. You got a nice little tan there.
No, I'm trying to match you. How am I going?
You know, you look like you're dressed like you're on holidays at the moment, actually. Pretty casual.
Yeah.
You look good.
Memo.
How was Cook Islands, quickly?
Beautiful, mate. Beautiful.
Yeah?
Great spot.
I've never been. Why is it beautiful?
It's really, like, the water's picturesque. People are lovely. Really developed, really clean. It was great.
Are you trying to be a Michael Chemis and
start
a team in the Cook Islands?
Yeah, I'm available.
You're available?
Chammy can get a gig. I can
Doing a good job, Chemo. I spoke to him the other day.
He's doing what? He hasn't done anything yet.
Do you reckon he'll do well?
He said he's going to win a comp in 3 years, he said.
Really? Come on.
That's what he said.
What, winning comp within 3 years?
That's what he said.
Very optimistic.
He gets
I like the positive attitude, though. So PNG getting ready as it is. But we've got some big news. Let's get straight to it. Origin eligibility was the big one of the week, really. Yep. Now, players that are born here, which they already were, before the age of 13 playing in New South Wales or Queensland, from top-tier nations now can play for their states. Thoughts on this?
Look, my first reaction was I don't love it. There's going to be, when a team's about to get picked this year, there's going to be added intrigue, right? No doubt about that. When you toss up the names, like, particularly Adam Finnell or Blake, he probably walked straight into that New South Wales lineup. So when we get closer to Origin and we're talking team selection, I think there's going to be an added element of excitement towards it. But, for me, I would have gone the other way, right? I would have made it harder to flip-flop and change and built up a situation where we had Origin. It's going to be interesting to see there's a push for Origin, a standalone weekend and new broadcast cycles and things like that. I would have built up the international game to be played alongside the same weekend as Origin and had Samoa v Tonga in a 3-match series and try to build that up rather than allowing this.
So you're not happy with it?
I don't love it, no. I don't love it.
Because the general consensus has been that everyone's on board with this. It's about time. We want to see our stars playing on the biggest stage, which is Origin, and international level, which we know has grown and will continue to grow over the next few years. A lot of ex-players have come out and said they like it, but you're saying that you wouldn't have went this way.
I wouldn't.
You would have rather build the international game with a separate entity game at the same time?
Yeah, exactly. I would have tried to build, because we know where the international game's going. It's growing huge, right? And I do not. This is not about players picking. Like, if you're eligible for whoever you're eligible for and you choose, I'm not going to tell you who to play for. You can choose whoever you want, right? But I think we could have got to a stage in 5 or 10 years' time where, Origin players are getting 30 grand a game, right? We could have built up a 3-test series between New Zealand and Tonga or New Zealand or Samoa, and worked that out. And they would have got decent match payments eventually, and it would have been built up. So we would have had more content. And I don't think it would have hurt Origin if these guys chose to represent Tonga or Samoa. But I just, there's something uncomfortable in a way if Kalen Ponga can play for Queensland and then play for New Zealand. Yeah. For me, that doesn't sit right. Yeah,
I think that a lot of the traditionalists are struggling with it, and it's been so positive, the reaction, though. So I like this because this is kind of the flip side to it. And it kind of leads me to my point. And I think there's got to be, now they've made the decision, there's got to be a blanket rule around how many international teams you can play for, how often you can switch, because as it is right now, there's players that can play for 2 or 3 different countries, and there's no really rule on how much they can go or play for Australia 1 month and play for New Zealand the next, and Samoa the one after that. There's going to be players that are born in Australia but have Samoan mother, New Zealand father. Like they've got 3 options, and it could become pretty farcical with players missing one team, so they'll play for the other. They miss that one. It can get out of hand here, and I get concerned about that because I also think that we're devaluing the Australian jersey to a degree, and I kind of thought about this a lot. Australia as a country has given all these guys the opportunity for them and their families to come and live in the best country in the world, a country of opportunity, to get to the highest levels of the sport, the National Rugby League, opportunities to earn great money and, give the lifestyle to their families that they've always desired and wanted. But I feel like these guys now, I don't want them to lose track of where they've come from and how important Australia is to them, and make Australia a priority, because without this country, there is no opportunity for them to be where they are right now. And my concern is that over 5 or 10 year period, we've already got 50% of the game now that are Polynesian, Indigenous. That's only going to grow because they are so talented and they are building our game and being such a success in our game that in over a 10-year period, that the Australian jersey will become devalued and weakened. And that to me is a worry. I think for now we're looking at it pretty narrow-minded that it's a great decision now. But are we looking 10 years down the track and where our game's going to be and what the Australian team's going to look like? And, you could have most of the Origin series being played by players that don't even represent Australia.
Oh, I think we'll probably get to the point in 10 years' time where the Australian side will be made up of players that don't play Origin. There'll be a handful, of course, that play for Australia and play Origin. But, does it go back to the fact, like when we grew up, Braith, and when you obviously played Origin was a genuine selection trial for Australia, right? It probably hasn't been that way for the last couple of years, okay? Because we don't have a mid-year test or and Queensland's dominance as well for a long period of time sort of made all these guys automatic selections as well. But I do get your point, the fact that in 5 or 10 years' time, we're going to be looking at an Australian lineup, which is unrecognisable from the sides that run out mid-year for Origin.
Yeah, and we've always had depth, right? And we could always pick two teams for Australia that would be highly competitive. But we're also very successful and dominant for a reason, because the NRL and Australian Rugby League and our country has worked hard on the greatest game of all to supply the best players and develop the best players. And another thing that concerns me, I don't want to be negative Nancy, but, there could be players that play for New South Wales and Queensland now, and I'm not saying there will be, but there's a possibility that the money is so enticing, 30 grand a game, and do they have that passion? Do they have the passion that a Cameron Munster has, Jonathan Thurston, Paul Gallen? You can go through all of them. Do they have that passion that it takes to be a New South Welshman or a Queenslander that makes Origin what it is? Because that's what makes it. Do they have that, or are they just, I'd like to play for Queensland, I'd like to play for New South Wales, I'm going to get 30K. I'm going to make 90K here. Is that a worry?
Well, it's interesting. Jerome Hughes came out straight away because there's been some talk around Jerome Hughes and his eligibility. He goes, look, even if I'm eligible, I could not play for Queensland because of the reasons that you just said.
And I love that.
But not everyone's going to have that approach, right? He goes, I want to play for the Kiwis. I want to play for the Maoris. I want to play for the Melbourne Storm. That's the jersey that I resonate with. The Queensland side, it was sitting next to Cam Munster, and he goes, Cam, I see how passionate you are. I could never be that passionate about playing for Queensland, right? And there will be, I think, less people that think like that, right? Because as you said, because players want to challenge themselves too. There'd be players that have been sitting, like Adam Fanua-Blake will be sitting there licking his lips going, I think he's probably watched every Origin.
He grew up in Mascot. Played for Mascot Jets. And played for New South Wales under 18s, I believe. So he already has that passion, and he's a New South Welshman. And was on,
he played one test for New Zealand, which has ruled him out, right? Because now he plays for Tonga, right?
That's an instance that makes sense, and that's a no-brainer. And there'll be many more of those, but there's also going to be the others, right? And that we're going to have to deal with. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, but. Do you like it overall though? You're a bit unsure, aren't you?
I'm gonna love the talk around the team selection, no doubt, right? And we're going to speak about it a lot throughout the season. And the guys that realistically will, I think there's only at the moment Adam Fanua-Blake walks into the New South Wales side, and Britta Nicker is probably the other one at the Sharks that would probably slot into the Queensland side. But I don't think there's not going to be a huge amount of players, because obviously, blokes like Jason Tumwiler would have played 20-plus games for Queensland if he was allowed to by now. But his best is past him. Victor Radley, I think that window's probably gone past him now.
I think it has too,
of Origin.
I wouldn't say it has definitely.
It's not certain.
He's going to have to play out of his skin though.
Because he's suspended to start the year as well.
And he's in a competitive position there in Origin as well. But I just think, we've got... people are saying, times have changed, right? The game's growing, international level. Everyone wants to see the superstars play Origin. But one thing with Origin is it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. And what we grew up watching and why it is so special is because it's New South Wales versus Queensland, state versus state, passion, hatred, because it's been ingrained in us from the time we were born to the time that we just wanted to put that jersey on and no other jersey. That was the jersey. It was above the Australian jersey. But that's going to change now. Yeah. And that concerns me because if Origin changes its DNA and what it's been built up to for since its inception, then it's not. It could change. It could be a different game, and that's a worry. Let's get to Payne Haas now. What a selection! What a signing that was. Payne Haas to the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Wayne Bennett. I think it's obvious without Wayne, he doesn't go there. That's what's been said by Payne and the media. An interesting one though. Let's dig a little deeper. First reaction.
First reaction when I got the phone call that Payne Haas was going to South, I was like, what?
Yeah.
That was
so April Fool's Day.
It was my first reaction. I'd been overseas. The next day I arrived back and was trying to put the little one to sleep and like in the car, and I got a text saying you'll want this one, and I ring the bloke back and he's like, yeah, Payne Haas is going to South, and I wasn't sure because I'd been away. I wasn't sure if it was not out there, but so I rang Reedy and I rang a few others, and people were like, no, this is genuine like news.
Have we found out why he's left? Because I think all of us were shocked. But what is the reason? Because, he came out and said the reasons. I don't think everyone really buys into all of those reasons. Like there's a few sceptics around. What do you think?
I'm definitely one of those sceptics, Braith. I think there was talk around Christmas that he was about to ink a 12-month... Let's rewind to the first.
Yeah, rewind it. Talk us through it.
But let's rewind a little bit. He was going to R360. I don't care what anyone has said. He was one of those guys that had made his mind up post-grand final that if they lived up to their end of the bargain in terms of, $3 million a year, paid up front, tax-free, if they ticked all those boxes, he was gone. So I think that started to turn his head initially, right? And then... around Christmas, there was reports that he was going to ink a 12-month extension to remain at Brisbane, puts him back on the time frame for R360, he can reassess it. For mine, between Christmas and Feb, something's happened. What that is, I'm not exactly sure, but I think something in Payne's mind has changed, and whether or not, the easy thing is to point to relationship with Michael Maguire, or at the very least, Michael Maguire's training methods, right? It will come into question and come into the spotlight again. There's no doubt for mine that...
Was Buzz right?
Well, Buzz was last year. Buzz was right that the players were like a bit taken aback by some of the training methods of Madge, right? But
which you're going to be like when you're a team you haven't trained that way.
Yes.
And the intensity lifts, and a disciplinarian comes in and shocks you with his new systems that he's put in place. It's going to take a while, and the players aren't going to naturally be happy. Yeah. But as the season goes on and they win a premiership, it worked. But back to you, you have the feeling that it has to have something to do with it.
It had to have some. Because why, Braith? When you sit down and break it down, as you said, you just won a comp. The club. This is completely different to the situation with all the Penrith players that left because they were gazumped by $1 million offers, huge deals that Penrith said, congratulations, good luck. Let's stick at hand for the next 12 months and see where we go, but good luck, you go with our blessing. All those blokes that left Penrith had that conversation with the Panthers. This was a club. He's not gone for salary cap reasons. He's made the decision to leave a side that he just won a premiership at. So you can't say to me that Wayne Bennett is the almighty, and that's the law of Payne. Wayne is obviously, and without Wayne, he doesn't go to South, right? Yeah. But it's not the fact, it can't just be the fact that Wayne Bennett is the coach of the South Sydney Rabbitohs is why Payne Haas is not at the Broncos.
A lot of people are saying, listen, guys, he's just going to South because Wayne wants him there. He loves Wayne. They've got a good team. There's a premiership window there for them now with him going there. He wanted to be closer to his manager, I believe, and his family needed a change. Now, if you look at all those reasons, you go, 100% they all make sense. But peel it back and you've got to go, hang on, he can earn just as much money in Brisbane.
Probably more.
Well, probably more. And I can talk to that because off-field he'll make more in Brisbane than he will off-field at South. So, and third parties in Brisbane, you name it, he'll get it. So money's not the issue. He's not going there for more money, so you can rule that out. He's coming off a premiership win with a team that are young, enthusiastic, that are only going to get better. All right? Their premiership window, if you line up the teams...
With Payne in it.
Brisbane's still ahead, well ahead of South. So even though South have huge potential, they'll be big improvers this year, and they are a premiership threat once he goes there. There's that, right? Now, as the next player who has won a comp, and only one, and I would love to have won more, if you're at a team that you've got a close bond with, you like the coach, you've had success in the first year of the head coach going there, you're earning great money, you have lived in Brisbane your whole life, so we like changes every now and then, but you live there, you're a local boy, and you don't even go to market. So you don't even test the market. And you make a call a split second like that in a short period of time to make such a huge decision and pretty much, even though he loves the club, walk away from that club. It doesn't make sense. I don't really... Again, I know why, all the reasons he stated. And you know what? He may just be a different cat, and that's the way he thinks and feels. And he may be different to all of us, and that's the decision he's made based on what we said at the start. But it's still extremely, extremely unusual. And for me, I can't get my head around that there's something there that just he's not happy with. And he wants a change, but we're probably never going to find out why.
And Braith, they would have given, if he wasn't sure, just say he wasn't sure, he could have rolled out for another 12 months.
Yeah.
They would have given him another 12 months. And
Definitely.
he could have sat back and assessed the situation after another 12 months and gone, do I really feel this way? Because the value for Payne was always going to be there on the open market. So the fact that he's left on his own accord points to me, similar to you, that something's gone on over summer.
And that's why the rumours will always circulate, and the speculation and talk around his coach, Michael Maguire, being a part of that reason will go on. Now, Madge, I've been a big fan. I still am.
Same.
Talked him up all last year, pushed back on Buzz and the spew buckets and all that. But does Madge have to change his ways? And does he have the ability to do that?
Well, right, if you're Madge, right, and you sit there and you've gone, I want a cop in Wigan, I want a cop at South, I won a Test series for New Zealand, I've won an Origin Shield, and I've not won another premiership. Why are you changing? Because in Madge's mind, you're sitting there going, no, I don't need to change because it works. Everyone else around me may need to change, right? But it does wear thin. It does wear thin. His coaching style, he's a really good person, Madge, right? But his ability to wear players down, I think it's always ingrained in him, right? He's softer than what he was at South, no doubt, right? But that edge will always be there, and I don't think he's capable of changing it fundamentally from the way he is.
And that's a fair point. Looking at his past record, right? I think as a modern day great coach, you've got to be versatile and you've got to be able to change your ways. And you see all the coaches that are around the longest and have the longevity and success are normally the guys that are people. They're man managers, right? And generations change. We know that. It's all different now than it was when I played, and even when you started working as a journo, right? So I actually think that he just needs to be subtle with his changes. I look at someone like Brian Smith who coached me. He didn't change. He couldn't change. How many grand finals did he get to and he couldn't win? And it was just like, what is it? And I actually rate Brian as one of the best coaches, if not the best, strategy-wise or strategist, or in terms of rugby league DNA. He was incredible, but he had parts that, as a captain playing underneath him, and his relationship with the players, I'd go to him and say, mate, you got to stop doing this, or I think you should handle this player different to that player. And unfortunately, Brian Smith couldn't change that. And in the end, it was his undoing, right? So if I'm looking at Madge, I'm thinking Madge, players like Payne, but we don't know how he coaches either. We're not inside the four walls, but I'm assuming you got to look after your leaders. You got to look after the guys that rep players that have got a lot of kilometres in their legs throughout a season. You've got to treat some players different to others. You can flog your young blokes because that's what's a part of coming through the grades, and you've got to earn your right to play first grade. But I think at some point, for Madge's benefit, he may need to change. And I'm not putting this on Madge that Payne's leaving.
Yeah.
But we do hear a lot, you and I, and everyone else about it, and it's not a coincidence. It's not
because of the way Payne's left as well.
That's right.
If it was a $1.8 million deal from South and you go, oh, they've been gazumped, you can understand. But for mine, with Madge, Braith, like, I honestly feel like he'll be the first coach to win 3 comps at 3 different clubs.
Really?
He's the bloke that if I'm at a club and I think my team's 90% there, he's the guy to get you that 10%. If I'm a bottom 4 club, I'm not going near him, right? Because he's a premiership window coach. He's proven that he's a guy that can come in, do a job. For mine, he's a gun for hire, right? So Brisbane have a very, which is it's crazy to think the bloke just won a comp last year. If I'm Brisbane, I may not re-sign him.
Okay, he's got 2 more years.
Yeah.
And that's a long time. That's a long time in our game,
Yes.
right? Because we don't know what's going to happen this year. But you think there's a huge... Do you re-sign him?
I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't yet.
But what if he wins again this year?
I'd say thank you.
Really?
Yeah, I would.
He's going back to back, and you're...
And they can go back to back, right? I generally think they can go back to back.
How do you sack a coach that goes back to back?
It's crazy. It is absolutely...
Maybe he has changed his ways, though. Maybe this year he changes his ways.
I just don't think he can. I just don't think he can. And I think Michael Maguire is an elite coach. He's different to Craig. He's different to Wayne. I don't think or Trent Robinson either. He's not a guy that can do 10 years at a club.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's that sort of coach. But
okay, well, I can tell you one thing. If they go back to back, he's not getting sacked.
Of course. Who would sack him?
They'll re-sign him.
They will. They will.
So you
they will.
Wouldn't that be a story?
And I know I agree. It sounds absurd. It sounds even the fact that he's won 1 comp and not to re-sign him, let alone going back to back. But there would be part of me that if I'm the Brisbane Broncos, I'm going, and if I'm another club, I'm looking at him going, let's get that guy in. He's that 10% that we need to get the job done.
What's another club?
When you sit there and you
I mean, like right now, we'll move on from this.
Yeah.
A club right now that he could go in and win a comp for. If you give us an example.
North Queensland?
Cowboys. With the squad they got, you thinking the right coach?
North
like
Queensland?
for what they need, that intensity to
just go that
get
extra,
the job done quick.
Just go that extra level.
All right, let's move on. And it's time to talk about your team, your beloved St George Illawarra Dragons.
Yeah.
Interesting one this. They played against a reserve grade South Sydney team, although I want to give credit to South. They were outstanding. Those players, those young guns really stood up. So South are in good stead with the 1 to 17 they've got and the team they fielded on the weekend performing the way they did. The Dragons had pretty much their first grade team in. Charity Shield in Wollongong too.
Yeah.
And I don't read into trials.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think you can throw it in the bin. I've never been a fan of anyone reading too much in the trials or thinking that's going to translate into the season. I don't think there's much evidence of it either, to be honest, over the years. So I'm going to cut them a bit of slack. But you as a fan, I want to ask you as a fan, because there's been a lot of optimism around the Dragons. They have been talked up. They have been talked up, and the fans are really excited. Are you worried as a fan after watching that game?
I think I'm with you when it comes to trials. They're meaningless in a way, right? But regardless of things that occurred, they had to find a way to get the job. They just had to win. I know, Cookie drops that ball, and there's a few things that happen in the game but when you sit down and break those two teams down on paper, it shouldn't have even got close in the first half, right? So I'm a little bit concerned from that respect, but you hear about stuff around training loads and things like that in trials as well. They're different because they're playing a week before South. Their training loads are probably different, and that's an easy excuse. But if I'm sitting there watching, I'm a little bit concerned by what I saw, and it's the same elements of concern that I had at times last year where the game's getting faster, the Dragons aren't, and that's a concern.
Is it talent? Is it their roster? Is it the way that they play? Is it their coaching? What is it?
No, it's definitely. I just don't think they've got an emerging roster, particularly the forward pack. They got some really, really good young forwards, and signing Kayo Kamatangi complements that next season. So I think the forward pack and the foundations are there, particularly in the forwards, right? But like you look at some of the key positions, and we talk about in the spine, like Keith Gutherson, heart and soul player, right? The game this time now is built on speed, right? Who is in that Dragons lineup, particularly in the middle of the field at the moment, and then playing off the back of that, that's something that can cut a game open, right? That's the concern. Their strengths are their edges, like Sua, elite. Leilua's come back in really, really good shape and looked like a handful in Origin. Holmes and Sully, right? That's probably where you sit there and you break it down their squad, you go, okay, that's where their strike is. But can they roll forward enough? Can the halves and the fullback get them clean enough ball to give these guys some opportunities, one-on-one opportunities on an edge? That's my concern.
It's a good point. They've got a young forward pack who need to go from boys to men very quickly. And I think they can. But to do that week in, week out, long season, is going to be difficult, but it's going to be difficult if they play the way they did the other night. And that's not even, we haven't started yet, right? So there's going to be a big emphasis on Vegas and looking for a huge improvement. You talk about the speed there, and you're right, Gutho's a freak, but he's not getting any quicker at fullback. Cookie was one of the quickest nines in the game, but he's also getting on, you know. But he's still quick, but probably doesn't have that same acceleration he did have. Cole Flanagan's not renowned for being quick, never really has been. Atkinson's got speed, but then is he a number 7 or is he a number 6, which has been the question mark all pre-season. But the coaching staff's backed him as the 7 for months now. We had Mick Innes on here a couple of weeks ago saying how good they're going at training and they're flying. And being honest, I'm a little sceptical of the Dragons and have been before that trial. And not to say that I don't think they can do well this year. I do. I think they can get to a point where they're fighting for a top 8 spot. But I didn't quite buy into the hype before that game. And after that game, as I said, I'm not willing to put a line through them. Or I don't want to shoot them down or be negative. But for me, nothing's changed. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if they improve a hell of a lot from that and they shock a few people after that performance. Because, again, I just don't read into the trial form. And you've also got a new halves combination that haven't played a proper game together, and a 7 that I think's a 6 that's trying to learn to be a 7 over a pre-season. There's a lot going on there, and without, like you said, speed in key positions and big game experience, they are behind the 8 ball before the season even starts. I just think the hype has been too much around them.
Do you think that the hype was a little bit built off, and he's not even there yet, it's Keon, right? Do you think
that means nothing
it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. But
and to be fair, if Keon comes into that team and they play like they did the other night, it ain't going to change nothing.
No chance. But there'd been a stench around the Dragons for their inability to sign players, right?
Yeah.
And they...
Why haven't they been able to sign players?
Well,
you're a fan. You're inside.
I think the organisation were very slow, very reactive, right? They got on the front foot. We count the infamous helicopter flight, right? That's a different way of thinking that's now in that organisation that hadn't been there. I felt like for so long, players would be on the market, the Dragons would read about it instead of knowing about it before they were on the market, right? So they've strengthen those ties up with getting Daniel Anderson in there now. Tim Watford, the CEO, is a guy that's a go-getter as well. So they've changed the energy in and around the club. And I think getting that Keon deal done, whilst it was 5 years and probably too long, right? But that's what they needed to do to get the deal done. I think it just changed that narrative a little bit. And I think the optimism for performances this year came off the back, came off the back of that signing a little bit as well.
Who else do they sign? Who's next? Have they got anyone in mind?
The player that they would have really liked to have signed was Luke Metcalf. I think if he had...
Yeah, he would have been really good for them.
speed.
Did they make a play at him?
Well, he did the deal before November 1.
Okay.
But he would have been one that if he'd come onto the market, they were going to go all in on. And there's not that quality of player there now.
So why do you think players like a Luke Metcalf is not prioritising the Dragons?
Well,
like, you know, if the Dragons are saying, we'll throw anything at Luke Metcalf, he's exactly what we need, but he signs before November 1.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he be thinking, I'm going to wait and test the market?
Well, I think it's a wrap for the Warriors in a way as well, right? Because they looked after him. He's coming off the ACL, and they still showed that
Which
faith
makes
in him,
sense
right?
too.
But there's no doubt, Brad, you've been in there was, before the Cannon deal got done, there was this stigma that the Dragons couldn't sign anyone, right? And whether or not it's the split between, you know, living in Wollongong and travelling to Sydney, or Sydney and Wollongong, or the fact that they've won one finals game in 10 years doesn't help.
It's a hard one. That's why I think for the Dragons and their fans, it's important they play well this year, because not only just for the players that are playing at the moment and for the fans, but also to attract players, you've got to show progression.
Yeah.
And if there's no progression, players aren't going to be jumping out of their skin to get there, and they're going to have to continue to play overs for players and sign long-term deals like Keon just to get them through the door. All right, let's talk some footy around the Bulldogs. Now, they were very good on the weekend, but unfortunately for them, Leo Thompson out for 10 weeks, calf tear. Now, I want to get your feedback on this, because I actually spoke to... I was about to say the name, but actually I didn't. I spoke to an insider at the Bulldogs before the Indigenous game, or the All-Star game, sorry. I got that wrong. But and they were a bit concerned about Leo playing in it.
Yeah.
Because he had carried a few nigglies, and they were really pumped for Vegas. He was looking fit and ready to go, and he's such a huge and pivotal signing for them and possibly their success this year, right? And they were kind of a bit uneasy about him going to play in it, but understand that it is for his culture, his family, that it was very important to him. And then they picked him, and then he gets injured training, right? So it's a bit of a disaster, and I felt like their worst concern became a reality.
Yeah.
What have you heard?
Yeah,
much
I'd heard something similar, that he probably felt a twinge or didn't think much of it, and then went to play in the All-Stars game, and then suffered this long-term injury. And 10 weeks, it's half the it's almost half the season now for their marquee signing. So yeah, there's no doubt there's a disappointment there for the Bulldogs, because he was the guy that was going to take him from top 4 into premiership credentials, right? Change that forward pack, give him a bit of spark, lay that foundation. So, yeah, he's a huge out for him.
I actually think they should move that game, but that's for another day, to the back end of the year. I think Rudy brought up a good one, having the week off before the grand final like the Super Bowl do, and maybe even putting it in there. It worries me before the year. You know, you're underdone. These players are so important to their team in the season. So that's for another day. Matt Burton with his hamstring. Have we got any mail on that?
He'll play, I think.
He's fine?
He'll play.
Yeah, wasn't as serious as...
No, but when I first saw him, like everyone else, when I first saw him limped off, I said, well, he's no chance of going to Vegas. Yeah. But he's got through some training this week, so they're supremely confident that he'll play.
I may as well stay on that. O'Sullivan did well when he went off.
They looked good, Braith.
And they look great. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of the Dogs. Excited for them this year. Of course, Leo Thompson doesn't hurt, but they've still got that I wouldn't call it a dilemma, but they're going to have the combination of Burton and Galvin. And
it's not a dilemma, but it's a microscope will still be on those two.
Yeah, it won't be a dilemma unless it turns into a dilemma.
Yeah.
You know, if they come out of the gate strong, which, you know, I kind of look at the Dogs, and Sean O'Sullivan's a good example. Less is more.
Yep.
You know, a genuine 7 comes on and just gets them to the points on the field they need to be.
I agree.
Executes their kicking game the way that they needed to. They've got strike power, star power, kick out, Crichton, Sherry. They've got it all. You don't need to overdo it in the 6 and 7, especially the 7. I think even Sexton, they're leading the competition. I hate going back there, but Sullivan's not much different to Sexton, really. And he came in, and it's just an example for the Dogs is you have the team. Less is more. Just have a 7.
What do you do, Braith?
You go on Galvin Burton, and what you're hoping is, with one of the best coaches in the game, Cameron Serrato, he's worked with him the whole pre-season. They've got a great halves development system there, I know that, definitely. And they've worked with him to master the art of the 7. Still have the X factor flair, take the lot on as he does, but just the fundamentals of a 7, just tweak your game a little bit. Don't lose Lachlan Galvin and who you are and how you've got to where you are. But there's certain composure, control, game management that a half needs to have in NRL to be successful in the 7. And if they've worked on that hard enough, and Galvin has taken that on board, which I've heard that he has, and he's an exceptional talent, they'll be fine. And I think if I'm Galvin, I'm learning a lot from what Sean O'Sullivan did on the weekend.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. What do you think?
I'd be playing Matt Burton at centre. I'd be playing Sean O'Sullivan and Lockie Galvin in the halves.
You got some bombs at the moment. You got some bombs, eh?
Not really.
You really do want Buzzer to spot, eh?
No, I'm making more sense. I don't know. But no,
Talk us through that.
Just exactly what you just said, the control, right, of Sean O'Sullivan, his ability to get him around the park. It free up Lockie Galvin's strength, which is his running game, and it also allows Matt Burton to remain a strike player on edge. Matt Burton's not a creative player, right? And as you said, they got creativity on the outside.
He had 4 tries this last year, Matt Burton.
And that's off I know he's got the best long kicking game in the competition as well, but you'd think that would result in some points
stat,
too,
isn't it? Yeah.
right? So that's what I would.
But this is where I go back to the dilemma. You said there's not a dilemma. Well, it kind of is. I'm hoping it's not. Like I've spoken to all the Dogs, hierarchy and a few of the players, and I'm like pumped for them. I'm just hoping it's. And you know what? They got the Dragons first game, and if the Dragons turn up like they did last week, that could be the perfect start for the Dogs.
Who are you picking in the halves then, Braith?
I'm going with Galvin and Burton to start the year.
Yeah.
You just got to. They're quality players. I'm still unsure, and the jury's out, and the pressure's on. But I would go with them too. All right, now it's time for the fan feedback. My favourite part, Mick. My favourite part.
Yeah.
All right, Curtis G, doggy on top. Come on, mate. Will Willie Peters ever coach NRL, Braith? This is to me. How different would it be from Super League for him? I've got to be careful with this because whole KR bosses watch KO and they get upset when I talk about Willie.
What can I say? He'll be an NRL coach.
Okay,
He'll be an NRL coach, and when the merry-go goes around at some point during the year, be one of the first names on it.
Yeah, I think the difference in terms of answering that question there for you, Curtis, the difference won't matter. Willie's if you actually look at what he's done his apprenticeship here, and then he's gone over to the Super League like Michael Maguire and the likes, and won the title over there, and built a team at Hull KR from scratch, like bottom of the table. And the one thing about Willie is he's got a great relationship with the players. So, Jared Wira-Hargreaves can't speak any higher level. Mitchell Pearce over there, Sean Kenny-Dow. So I think he's going to be a great NRL coach, and he will coach in the NRL, yes. It's just a matter of when. Luke S., Bangkok Bandit. Braith, I'm keen to get in shape and look like you. What's your weekly training split? Oh, I've got a feeling this was our producer who wrote this one. If you want to get in shape like me, you got to train a lot. What's my split? I do 3 to 4 cardio sessions a week. I do 2 runs a week, minimum 5Ks, and I do 2 weight sessions a week. And I don't take supplements. All right. Mitch D. Stifler Diff. Mick, any noise going around on coaches under pressure? Are there any this season who could not see the end of the year out?
Yeah, I think the 2 under the most pressure, Todd Payton on the Cowboys and probably Anthony Seibold at Manly.
Okay.
They're the 2 that I'd say would start the year under the most pressure.
Have you heard any noise out of those camps, or it's just more so looking at their results?
A bit of noise at the back end of last year regarding North Queensland, definitely. And, Manly just sort of treaded the water a little bit last year, so that both those sides will need to start well.
Okay. Jonah Z at Flag Tizit. Who's more likely to make the 8, South or the Eels?
South.
It's a good question.
South. They're tight. Those, I think I had South 8, Para 9 on my ladder.
Okay.
So they're pretty tight. And they'll come down... Well, Parramatta need Mitch Moses to play 20-plus games, and South need Latrell for the first time to play 20-plus games.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of South this year. I think they'll be the big improvers. So I've already had them in the 8. The Eels, just looking at their game the other night, but without Mitch and, without a couple of key players, I love the systems and styles that Rolls now had 12 months. They were raw to start last year, and I feel they'll improve a lot. But it's hard because you're kind of guessing with Para. Like with South, I've seen them produce, and with no injuries, they got some star power. They'll do it. But
I'll tell you what I will say about Para. This is around Jonah Pezzett. The fact that they feel like if Mitch is missing, they're far better equipped now to deal with him not being there, because they've got a guy that can run the side, who they're comfortable with running the side if need be.
Yeah, and Iongi...
how good is he? That Iongi, Jason Rolls' first move, moving Gutho, signing Iongi, will go down as one of the all-time great decisions.
You got some criticism about Rollsy?
Yes.
Stan D, one hand back, hand two. Braith, what's the key to staying so tan year-round? I suppose my dad being Greek helps, because naturally I'm brown. I don't take fake tan. I don't use solariums for all those people.
I don't get as brown as you,
me. I am in the sun a lot though, Mick. I live in the east. Where do you live? You're out west, aren't you?
No.
Where are you?
St George area.
Oh, right. You just don't go to the beach.
There's no beaches in St George, mate.
You just jet ski at Botany with all your mates there. Or
Brighton, mate. Brighton,
yeah. Where they've all got no boat licence and they just do burnouts. All right, John C, Salford Saint. If rugby league didn't exist, what would you both be doing with your careers?
God. That's a great question. I have no clue.
Yeah?
No clue. I would be always wanted to do something. Once I worked out I wasn't good enough to play it.
Yeah. Which was pretty early.
Early doors, under sixes, Braith. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I played a heap of sports, and I'd probably be playing rugby union, to be honest with you.
yeah.
Cricket? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
one of those
probably
sports.
Covering cricket.
And what about tonight? Buzz. We're sending...
the boat party.
The boat party. Buzz is having a boat party. It's his farewell. But I thought Buzz didn't like boat cruises on the harbour.
There's been no motivational speech.
Madge Maguire had a one on the harbour.
Do you reckon Madge would have come if he wasn't in England?
Oh, my God. There's no way.
Special guest.
You wouldn't even no chance. Right,
so you'll be there?
I'll be there. A few beers with Buzzy. What else would you want? All right, that's it for this week. Thank you, Mick. We'll see you next time.